Welcome to the Strategic Management Accounting course, where we teach the value-adding steps and processes necessary to execute strategy. Whether you are just starting up or looking to grow your business, then this course is for you. With your host, Dr. Neil O'Connor.
Suppliers, right? So payment, what is the process in actually creating this lead time?
Approval process? Approve payments?
The company will talk to suppliers, right? And they might negotiate. You with me? They'll negotiate with suppliers. Okay, oh look, if you really want to become approved with us, like part of the approval process, partly, okay, we're not going to pay you until 90 days. Is that okay? Is that okay? Not really. Well, if you want to be approved with this company, then they've got to accept it, right? So you could say payment lead time is a result of an effective negotiation process. You with me? Okay, so payment, the actual lead time is an output, okay, but it's a measure of how effective negotiation is if you have some standard to compare it against. Remember, you've got the output plus some standard of what is a reasonable lead time, okay, and then it becomes a measure of effectiveness. You've got to be able to compare the output against a standard to find an effectiveness. Okay, class, you're with me here, all right? Let's supplier.
The payment lead time is quite broad, right? It can capture a lot of measures, like what I think Jess said also. Maybe your approval process could be quite long.
And part of the approval process in negotiation.
So,
how do you actually break down the bones of something to come up with measures that may be relevant? Okay, without talking about measures. Okay, we're just talking about what do you see in the organisation. Well, you don't see measurement when you go in the finance department. You may see these other time measures, like time is a measure of something, okay? All right, suppliers payment punctuality. What type of measure might you see there? Suppliers payment punctual. How can you get, what is the process that would make some suppliers to be punctual? And in other firms, the process works differently and the suppliers are not so punctual. What would that process be?
punctual to you're paying the supplier, right? Suppliers pay you.
Bring around the heavies, okay? Suppliers, no, this is, all right, suppliers payment punctuality. That means the firm is paying its suppliers on time and not delaying that payment. Okay, so this comes after payment lead time. Okay, you've been granted 90 days. You negotiate 90 days. Then you pay directly. You pay based on that 90 days. Now, what is the cost of the company if they miss that? Oh, maybe they have to pay 2% charge or some interest charge on that. Okay, if they miss that. So there's a cost there. All right, so what process can make sure whether the payment is punctual or not is, whether it's punctual or not is an outcome, again, but it goes back to the effectiveness of the process. Okay? Let's go to HR department. HR. Quick, you have to do many of these. I want you to get more comfortable with the ambiguity here. Process, HR, what does HR do? Quick, times. We're going to have a break in a minute. HR, what does HR do? Quick.
Training.
They do training and development. What else do they do? I gave you the 30-second course. What was it? 4 things they do. There's only 4 things. Hiring, which is selection. What else they do? Socialisation. Culture, building up the culture. And the last thing, compensation. That's all they do. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's the process. All right. Now let's have a look at what we've got here. HR. Employee turnover. Is that an input, process, or outcome? or output? Input, process, output, or outcome?
Outcome.
Outcome, okay. We've got an outcome here. Any more outcomes? Okay, what's your argument for outcome?
It's because of the HR process, that's why people decide to leave or stay with the company. So if they leave, then that will lead to, that's the outcome of an employee turnover.
I think it's also subjective because the employee can choose whether to stay or not. So
And there's many different reasons for why they may leave, right? There's voluntary turnover, there's involuntary turnover, right? So involuntary turnover may be an output, whereas voluntary turnover may be an outcome. Are you with me here? All right. We can argue that's a poor outcome of poor selection. Okay. Involuntary. You selected the wrong person at the start. You end up firing them. Why didn't you do a better job selecting? Okay. We wouldn't have had to fire that person. You with me on that? That's involuntary turnover. When you fire someone. Okay. I know all about it because I've been on that receiving end 5 times, so I know what it's like. It's fun. Should try it. Okay, employee turnover. Okay, it's an output or outcome. Okay, that's not. We can put it into that box. But because it's to do with people and everyone has different reasons, then in some ways it becomes much more of a less mechanical. You could say more of it's an outcome. Okay, all right. Remember, outputs are mechanical. Okay, mechanical. Training hours. What about training hours? Input, process, output. Hands up for input. Hands up for process. Process, yeah, it's a time measure. Time measures are really, most time measures are process measures. Okay, most time measures are process type measures. How long does it take you to do something? It's a measure of process. All right, like production cycle time. Okay, all right. Absenteeism. Right. Okay, hands up for outcome. Hands up for output. Hands up for process. Hands up for input. Absenteeism.
Yeah.
Definitely outcome. Okay, outcome. Okay. Look, the only way you can argue output is if you realise that, okay, the absenteeism is due to physical health and that is directly related to the hazardous substances we have in that factory, and there's been shown to be a connection between how the factory is run, the environment, and the physical health of bad people, okay? All right, so you make that connection, then it's going to be more of an output. It's not psychological, okay? Let's keep going. Metrics for customer perspective. What does the customer perspective, customer perceptions of product value? Customer perceptions of product value. Hands up for outcome. Okay, we're on the right track here. Finally. Okay, good. All right, customer buying patterns. Hands up for outcome. Okay, outcome. And for the next period, that becomes the input, right? But that's not the current value creation, that's the information flow for the next period, all right? So, all right, so let's understand that. Okay, metrics for internal perspective, customer service. So we can think of all of you, you're in customer service, you're manning the phones, you're ringing up customers 1 month after they bought the car. Are you happy with the car? Is there anything we can do for you? Any feedback on how you were served, or blah, blah, blah. You with me on this? Or you might be manning phones to take complaints or to fix problems after the sale, right? So let's have a look at customer service itself. That notion of just giving customer service, information, yeah, I just want to, wait a minute, that's sort of, what about information technology? Input, process or output as part of that customer service function? Input, okay? You've got the customer relationship management system. So it's tracking customers, things like that. You've got that. All right. Supply chain. So now we're actually talking about various customers along the supply chain. So if we're talking about customers, we're talking about distributors or actually downstream customers. B2B, downstream manufacturers buying your component. B2C, downstream customers buying your final product. Okay, so I don't know why they call it supply chain, because that's kind of more upstream. It's not a customer thing. Upstream is more on the purchasing side, right? The people you're purchasing from, okay? All right, so, but there are other organisations that you're working with. That's the process of managing other organisations. So metrics for the internal process. Supply chain, that's not very clear. That one is very clear, is not very clear because it's not telling you anything, okay? All right? So we can pass on that last one. That's a bad one. Long story short, we're going to have a break now, but, all right, let's... So here's what happens. Most Balanced Scorecard courses, they will teach you the internal customer learning and growth and financial perspective, and they get you to memorise all that. We do the coffee example, keep it very, very simple. What we did here is actually go even deeper, okay? Go even deeper in that. Okay, can we just break apart what is actually going along in the value chain? Is there some part of the input, process or output that we can measure if we need more visibility? Now, what do we need? We never need visibility on outcomes. We need visibility to give feedback. We need visibility of measures to give information back into the system. Okay? How do we get better visibility? By, measuring an output, comparing it with a standard. And then that becomes an efficiency or an effectiveness measure. Okay? Another way of getting visibility is to divide the inputs. You've got input, process, and output. If you divide the output divided by the input, what do you get? Efficiency. Okay? Right? So once you combine two together, then that's how you get a measurement of the process. You with me? So then the question, I'm trying to clarify some misunderstandings you're having about what's outcome, what's process. For process, the only dimension that can stand on its own is something like a dimension of time. You with me? Once you move away from a time dimension and you say, oh, we're going to work on output, we've got to combine that with a standard to make it useful for decision making. You with me here? Okay? Or you combine it with inputs. Okay? Output divided by input, you get a measure of efficiency. Or what's the time? How many seconds does it take to make something? Okay? So two cardinal rules. Number one, the best measures are those that add value to decision making. Like, if there's no decisions to make, then why do you waste time measuring? Number two, the better measures are the earlier measures. So output measures are not always as good if you have a better process measure on its own, like time, or you have a better input measure, like the readiness of the people to engage in that process. Measure of readiness may be the skill set they have, engineering background, ability to respond to problems very, very quickly. With me, they're input measures, right? They're learning and growth at the bottom. So what I'm saying, two cardinal rules. Okay, the best measures are those, well, the only measure, you should be only measuring to support decisions. Okay, if there's no decision to make, why do you want to make a measure? So if someone comes to you and say, oh, I want more measures. What measures should I have? Gilbert, come to you. All right, your relative comes to you. Oh, you know, you're at the best business school in Asia, right? You hesitate? No, of course, we're at the best, right? So you should be able to answer this question I need your help, okay? You're doing business, right? Okay, so I need more measures. I think we need to measure something new. Can you help me? You've done this O'Connor course. He taught you all about measurement. He confused you at the same time. Okay, can you help me? What are you going to do? What's the first thing you should do when someone comes to you for help and asks all these questions? Oh, what measures have I got? I've got all these measures. Are they good or bad? What should I do? I'm spending all my time doing administration. I'm buried in paperwork of all this measurement. What should I do? What's your response? What should your response be? Come on, this is real world consulting here. Anyone help, Gilbert?
Understand the business.
Yes, okay.
It's a long process.
Let me give you a hint. Let me give you a hint. Something to do with this. Okay? Your best response is what decision, or you get a whole list, there may be hundreds of them, but what decisions do you want to make better? That's all. Okay? Like, that's the purpose of measuring, all right? Measures don't create value. Decisions create value. Class, you hear me here. It's decisions that create value. Measures don't. Measures give feedback to make better decisions. Okay? All right? So, that's what you need to ask. Someone comes to you, oh, what measure is you? Well, okay, what decision? Let's list down 10 decisions. Okay, let's just go by one. You know, you want this decision. Okay, you want marketing decision. Oh, or maybe you need more information on the demographics of your customers. Oh, let's start measuring that. You with me here? All right? So you don't have to give an answer of, you learnt all these measures. Oh, try this measure. Don't even do that. Okay? Go drill down on what type of decisions they're making. How do they want, what information they need to make the decision better. That's what you need to focus on. Okay? So, yeah, look, I've taken you through the bones here. This is not directly examinable, okay, in the exam. I'm not here to trick you in the exam, okay? All right? But this is 10 times transferable knowledge across all businesses. Once you start thinking about the value chain, input, process, output, wow, you're going to be masters of the scorecard, because this really is even is deeper than this learning and growth, internal, customer and financial, the scorecard. All right, you know all about them already. Look, I'm so excited because the first one, strategy maps, all of that. A lot of organisations fail to do that. And when they fail to do that, what's their big mistake? The big mistake is they actually lose the G in the GOAL. Remember the goal? They actually lose that chance to develop the culture of the organisation. All right? Number two, then they lose the chance to actually provide a framework for finding measures. Remember you did that with the Maxim's Cafe? You remember you did that with the coffee shop? Remember the first step was, let's find a strategy. Second step, let's put some measures on the strategy that we think work. Are you with me here? This is step one, step two. But a lot of organisations say, let's not worry about that. We're just serving coffee. We're not worried about if there's a particular value chain associated with a customer experience or the best coffee or the efficient operation, all right? We just throw them all together and now let's just think of measures. You can imagine the problems. Look at all the measures that we came up with for that coffee shop, okay? But once we all agree that, we want to emphasise this very clearly, then we could actually start measuring that to really get some excitement about how that strategy is going. You with me here? All right. So a lot of companies fail to do that. Well, next they fail to validate the links. Validate the links. You know that. We already did that in chapter 4. Remember chapter 4? Remember the Hilton Hotel example? Do you remember the... I think you remember that. Validating the links. You remember that because the Hilton Hotel example was a great example where some professors, one of them from Cornell University, they looked at the sensitivity, all right? And the book says accuracy, just to make sure we don't have any misunderstanding here. And then here is reliability, right? Reliability, what do we mean? We hit the same point again, okay? Here, we're actually trying to hit exactly what we really want, okay? But may not be the same place all the time. You with me on that? And what the big problem with this type of measure was that we did not, what? We did not believe the measure. Why? Oh, because in chapter 5, what happened in chapter 5? Not behavioural displacement, not control, not costs of implementing controls, okay? Not excess slack. What was it? It was gamesmanship, okay? Any element of gamesmanship, then you actually lose total confidence with the whole measurement